My name is Rob Schaaf, and I'm a Republican state senator from Missouri. And for 15 years, I've been fighting in the legislature to protect our liberty. Today, America faces a crisis of liberty. Many of our freedoms are being eroded. Our freedom of speech, our freedom to maintain our privacy, and our freedom from government intrusion into our lives. But what should worry us most is losing the one freedom that underpins all the others, the freedom of self-government. For we lose the freedom to govern ourselves when our political system becomes more corrupt and responds more to the interests of big money than it does to the interests of the people. Because then all of our other freedoms become vulnerable to abuse by the mercenary actions of our government. As a state legislator, I have seen increasing corruption in our government. I could tell you many stories. I've watched as special interests and their lobbyists get their way at the expense of the public. And the public sees it too. In poll after poll, Americans say their government is corrupt. They say that they have lost faith in our democracy. And they say that politicians have quit listening to people like them. So what is to be done? Well, the people have solutions. Large majorities on the left and right would crack down on super PACs. They would empower small donors, end gerrymandering, expose dark money, and stop lobbyists from giving gifts and jobs and bundles of checks to the politicians that they're trying to influence. So, what is to be done? Well, the swamp just continues to get deeper. I've watched it happen, and I tried to do something about it. As a senator, I introduced real reform bills that would have stopped corruption, but they all died. The sham reform bills that we did pass were so watered down that they were nearly useless, because the Missouri legislature will only form or pass reforms that have loopholes so big you could drive a truck through them. So if the elected politicians won't do it, it falls to we the people to set things right. So here's my advice. Whenever possible, go around the politicians. Just go around them. In 24 US states, citizens can change the law directly using the ballot initiative process. You draft an initiative petition, you collect up enough signatures, and your proposal goes before a vote of the people. Using that process, citizens can pass sweeping reforms all by themselves without any help from legislators or politicians. It's happening right now. It's happening in Alaska. It's happening in South Dakota and in North Dakota. And it's happening in my home state of Missouri, where we have an initiative petition right now called Clean Missouri. Clean Missouri would ban all lobbyist gifts worth more than $5. And it would require legislators and their staffs to wait at least 2 years after leaving the Capitol before becoming lobbyists. Clean Missouri would strengthen Missouri's campaign contribution limits to break the power of big money. And it would prohibit political fundraising in the Missouri Capitol, where lawmakers ought to be passing laws and not asking lobbyists for money. And Clean Missouri would prohibit gerrymandering. what President Ronald Reagan called an undemocratic and un-American project. That's not right. Anyway, it would do this by enforcing an objective standard that's been endorsed by people like Senator John Danforth, Senator Bob Dole, and Governor John Kasich. If Clean Missouri and other ballot proposals like it pass in November, then our movement to stop corruption will have so much momentum. We will be on the path to follow other successful movements like the women's suffrage movement and the movement to repeal prohibition. Do you know how those movements succeeded? They started on the state and local levels, and once they were passed in 5 states and showed that they worked, those reforms spread like wildfire to 30 or 35 other states. And once enough states reformed themselves and sent reformers to Washington, Congress finally passed the reforms that the American people demanded. We can repeat that success, and we must. As President Reagan once said on the anniversary of D-Day, democracy is worth dying for because it's the most deeply honorable form of government ever devised by man. A lot of people died for our democracy, and we must honor them by protecting the democracy they gave us. Imagine what will happen when we come together to clean things up across our country. Politicians will actually listen to their own constituents instead of just begging big donors for checks. We can pass clean Missouri and a clean Louisiana, a clean Florida and a clean Montana, and ultimately a clean America. And by doing so, we can finally achieve President Lincoln's vision, a government that really is of the people, by the people, and for the people. Thank you.